Hi guys! So I am trying a new location again today. I've used it a couple times before and I don't know, I just for some reason feel like whenever I film from this spot my videos are more fun, so we'll see. Again, just like the last one, just try to ignore all of the junk that you might see on the ground. I wanted to have my bookshelf still in the shot, but my closet is still not fixed or put back together, so I just still have all this crap all over my room, so I apologize for that. But today I wanted to do my mid-August wrap-up. I am doing this in two parts, again just like I did last month with my wrap-ups, because it is already the middle of August and I have read 7 books. So I can already tell that if I keep up this reading speed during the second half of August, then I can tell it's going to be a huge reading month for me, especially because usually I end up reading more in the second half of the month. We'll see about that because it is going to be a busy month, especially with moving my sister into school next week and stuff. I just wanted my videos to not be super long, and if I talk about each book for 2 minutes, then that'll already make it a 14-minute video. So I just wanted to split this up as much as I could. So without rambling on and making this an even longer video than it needs to be, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the 7 books I have read so far in August. The first book that I finished this month was Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. This is the second book or companion book to Between the Lines, which follows a girl named Delilah who is obsessed with a one-of-a-kind fairy tale, and one day when she's reading it, the prince in the story talks to her and she finds out that he is trapped in the storybook and he wants to get out and experience life in the real world, so the whole book is just sort of them trying to get him out of the book. This book follows their adventures after he gets out of the book, and originally I wasn't really sure if I could tell you what this book was about because it kind of spoils the end of the first book for you, but it is really not a series. You can read one or the other or both. You don't have to read the other one before you read this one. You don't have to read both. You don't have to read only one. You can read really whatever you want. I would recommend that you read the first one before you read this because then you get the backstory, and I personally enjoyed the first book better. So this book follows their adventures after he gets out of the book, and then sort of when weird things start happening and other characters start coming out of the book and going into the book, it becomes sort of like a race to see how they can make this permanent and if they can even make this permanent. So that's what this book is about. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, but I didn't like it as much as the first book. This one was a lot sadder than the first book, whereas the first book was really just the 2 main characters that were miserable because they wanted to be together. This book, a lot more characters were miserable and trying to work things out, but I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was really sweet, and I enjoyed getting back with the characters and seeing how their lives were after the events of the first book. I feel like they could write another one because a couple things were not quite tied up in a perfect little knot, and I feel like they could probably write another one. So I'm interested to see if that kind of transpires in the next year or so. So we'll see about that one, but I liked this one. I would definitely recommend you read the other one first, but I really did enjoy this one. The next book that I read in August was Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire. I read this for Booktubeathon. It was the first book that I read during the Booktubeathon, and I read it in one day, probably about 12 hours, give or take a little bit, but I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I have a full review of this book that I have filmed, but I doubt that I will have posted it before I post this because I want to post this video as soon as I can. When it is up, I will link it in the description below, so I don't want to talk too much about this book because I did do a full review, but this book follows Travis and Abby, and Travis is this sophomore college guy who fights in these underground like basement fights, and he meets Abby and he kind of starts flirting with her a little bit, but she's not really falling for his charm, and so they decide they're gonna be friends, and they make this bet where if he wins the bet, then she has to live with him for a month, and if he loses the bet, then he has to remain abstinent for a month. And so things sort of transpire from there. Obviously it's a romance, you know that feelings become involved. I feel like I say that about every single book that I read. This is new adult, and I really enjoyed it. I kind of had mixed feelings about it because I did have some problems with the book, but I still feel like it deserves the full 5 stars. If you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts, please check out my review when it's posted. I will link it in the description below when it is posted, so that's this one. The next book that I read for the Booktubeathon was Tall, Tatted, and Tempting by Tammy Faulkner. I read this on my Kindle. This Kindle book was actually free, so if you're interested in checking it out, I definitely recommend that you do. This follows 2 characters, Emily and Logan, and Logan is deaf, and he works at his family's tattoo shop giving tattoos. One day, Emily walks into the tattoo shop and she wants a tattoo, but Logan, being the, you know, horny man that he is, he hits on her, and instead of falling for it, she punches him in the face. So because of that, he is super intrigued by her, and he finds her one day and sees that she is playing her guitar for change in the subway, so he takes her home and he takes her out for a meal and gives her a place to sleep for the night, and they become friends and they start having feelings for each other. And yeah, I think you should read the rest of the book to kind of find more out about all that stuff. The intriguing part about this is that Emily won't tell him anything, and not even her name. So I definitely recommend that you read this one. It is really good. I gave it 5 stars. Logan is my newest book boyfriend, and sorry for the glare. I'm gonna put this down because I can't find a good angle for it. Logan is my newest book boyfriend, and I really enjoyed this book, and I highly, highly recommend it if you have not heard anything of it. It's a free Kindle book, so download it, what can it hurt, and then you might realize that you really want to read the rest of the story. My favorite part about the book was Logan's brothers. He's got a really big family and they're all super fun, and the series actually follows a different brother each time, except for the second book. That's the second half of Logan's story. Speaking of, immediately after reading Tall, Tatted, and Tempting, I had to purchase Smart, Sexy, and Secretive, which is the second book in the series. This one was not free, unfortunately, but I think it was worth it because I really enjoyed the first book, and I really enjoyed this one as well. I also gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. This is the continuation of Logan and Emily's story, but after this, the books go just, you know, each book is about a different brother. So my favorite aspect of the story is continued in the rest of the series. I really enjoyed this book as well. I enjoyed it just as much as the first, and I really enjoyed how the story ended. I gave this one, again, 5 out of 5 stars. I gave both books 5 out of 5 stars, and I do have a review on these 2 books in one video coming soon, so I'm not going to talk really any more about these books. If you're interested, I definitely recommend picking them up, and keep an eye out for the review. I haven't filmed it yet, but when I film it / when the video is posted, I will link it below as with the other one. The next book that I read was Easy by Tamara Weber. I have to talk fast because my battery is dying for some reason. Okay. Anyway, so this book is another new adult book just like the other 3. So this follows a girl named Jackie, and she has come to college, and she has followed her high school boyfriend to college, and during their sophomore year, he kind of just dumps her without really any warning at all. So she's leaving a party one night and she ends up getting sexually assaulted when in rushes Lucas to her rescue, and he beats up the guy who's sexually assaulting her, and he takes her home, and that is their first encounter. Then she finds out later that he is in her class, and they kind of start hanging out, and a romance develops from there. And it turns out that there are more secrets involved in his life than she originally knew. I don't really want to tell you a lot because really just telling you small things could spoil you for the book, and I really just think you should go into it not knowing a lot, because I did, and I ended up really enjoying it. I gave this like 4.5, 4.75 stars. I don't know, something about it just wasn't my favorite, and something about it just made me not want to give it 5 stars, but I liked it a lot more than some of the books that I gave 4.5 stars, so that's why I'm kind of sitting at 4.75. I really enjoyed this. I definitely recommend that you read it. This is going to sound like a really familiar song and dance for the rest of you, but I really enjoyed this book, and I hope you guys go check it out. Yeah. This next book that I read, I was so surprised by, and that is If You Stay by Courtney Cole. I'm going to start off immediately by saying I'm definitely doing a video review of this. I haven't filmed it yet, but when I post it / film it and all that stuff, I will link it for you or put an annotation or something. This book was such a surprise. It is the first book in a series. I'm not sure what the series is called, but it's like one of those standalone series where the next book follows a different person in the same town. This follows a guy named Pax and a girl named Mila. I think it's Mila. It could be Mila, but I said Mila in my head when I was reading this. And I was not expecting to like this book at all. I was so surprised by this book. I went into it just not wanting to like it, thinking I was not going to like it. I tried to find things wrong with it. I ended up loving this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I was so pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect to like it at all. It was so real. It's hard for me to figure out how I can describe this book because I don't think the back really does a good enough job. At the beginning of the book, we meet Pax, who is... he's not a drug addict, but he does a lot of heavy drugs, and at the beginning of the book he overdoses, and he is found by Mila when she is walking to her car one night. She calls the ambulance and he goes to the hospital, and she talks to him when he wakes up in the hospital, and that's how they meet. And then he seeks her out afterwards to try to thank her properly, and he is just really indebted to her. He really likes her just from first meeting her. He's a huge player. He's a huge asshole. And that is all kind of coming from his mother dying as a child and him not dealing with memories of it. He's kind of suppressed it all, so he really has no idea what happened there. But Mila just makes him want to be a better person, and after finally convincing her to give him a shot, after she rejects him a couple times, they finally start going out, and she kind of is there to help him realize who he is and how good of a person he really is, and she helps him uncover a lot of secrets about his past that he didn't even really know that he had. So that's where this book goes from. Especially in the beginning of the book, I was really turned off because of how graphic the details of the drug overdose were, but I feel like that really makes the book more real and more raw. Courtney Cole just dealt with the heavy topics really well. This book actually ended up being really sweet, and I really ended up enjoying it. Like I said, 4.5 stars for this one, and I'm really excited to read the next one. I was originally going to pick the next one up, If You Leave, because it's about Mila's sister, but I ended up picking up something else instead, and that is Sweet Thing by Renee Carlino. I just filmed my video review for this not even 15 minutes ago, so when that is posted, again, I will link it in the down bar. This book is about a 25-year-old girl named Mia who is on a plane to New York to kind of take care of some things that her father left behind. Her father recently passed away, so she's headed to New York to kind of figure out the cafe that he left to her and kind of try to get his affairs in order and figure out what she really wants to do with life because she's not really sure at this moment. On the plane, she meets this guy named Will who is afraid of flying, and so throughout the flight they just end up talking and getting to know each other, and they actually have a lot in common. The big thing being music, so they talk a lot about music and they get to know each other really well, and they become friends, or this friendship starts, and they decide that maybe in the future they'll get coffee sometime, and they do end up meeting up later on, and they end up as roommates. I'm not going to tell you about the romance because I did talk about it in my review, but I just feel like if you really just want to go into this not knowing a lot, just pick it up based off of that. Don't even watch the review until you're done. Just pick the book up based off of what I just told you, because I feel like you really should go into it not knowing a lot. I did, and I got way more out of this book than I originally thought, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the themes were very similar to what I'm currently going through in my life, even though I'm not in a city and my father didn't just die, but a lot of the whole finding yourself aspect of it really touched home to me. So I really enjoyed this book, 5 out of 5 stars. If you're interested in the review, check it out. If not, I definitely recommend you just go into this book and knowing as little as possible, because I really enjoyed it and I would highly, highly recommend it. It's a new favorite of mine. So those are the 7 books that I read this month. Hopefully this video doesn't end up being so long. What was your favorite book this month, and what was your least favorite book this month? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys very, very, very soon with another video. Bye everyone!